afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening to this. I'm Coach Lucy Morris, and welcome to another episode of theflyingarcher.com. We have a wonderful guest for you today, Charlie Sneed. Charlie is a longtime archery enthusiast. He coaches youth JOAD programs, runs a league, and has summer camps. Charlie's a level 3 instructor, and he is retired from the military and Northrop Grumman. We have a lot to discuss, and please welcome from Elizabeth City, North Carolina, Charlie Sneed.
Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. Charlie, I gave a brief overview and a bio. And so, Charlie, sit back, relax, and take a minute or two and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into archery.
Well, my interest in archery actually started when I was in high school, I think, which was a few years ago, if you consider the fact that I've had 2 full careers, one in the military and one in private industry. But I got one of those fiberglass bows for Christmas.
Oh, the fiberglass bows.
Yeah, one of those. I was just fascinated with it. And back then, the only arrows that were available to me were those cedar arrows. I think you could buy them for like 50 cents each at Western Auto and places like that. So I was really taken with the sport, and I spent every penny I had buying those 50-cent arrows, which were very easy to break and very easy to lose. So I did that until when I was 17, I left home and joined the military and kind of got out of archery for a while until the early 1970s. I decided I wanted to get back in it, and and at that point I knew no one that did archery. Just something I wanted to do. I wanted to try my hand at hunting with bow and arrow. So I went out and bought a recurve bow and basically taught myself how to shoot incorrectly, I might add, but had no, I was a young person with a young family. I didn't have money to spend on lessons, and I'm not even sure there were lessons available at the time where I was located, but it was just trial and error. I would go out almost every day and shoot the bow until I got to the point that, I shoot it fairly well, and went from there. And as I was in the military, I traveled around the world. Sometimes archery was available to me, sometimes it wasn't. So I sort of migrated in and out of the sport, and I did it when it was available to me. Today I still hunt, but primarily my emphasis in archery is competition. And I've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years, I guess, through a club that I belong to, actually in Chesapeake, Virginia. It's a gun club called the Norfolk County Rifle Range, but we have an archery component, and I compete with those guys. In doing this, I found out that I really like working with young people, and so I've done a lot with them in recent years. Along with a friend of mine, a guy by the name of Ed Keller, we run summer camps for young people. In fact, we've got one scheduled for next month in Virginia, and then I have 2 more scheduled here in North Carolina where I live. And we started a JOAD team, which I really enjoy. And again, Ed and I were co-founders of that. And my son, who's also he's a level 2 coach, helps with the JOAD program. And we have a junior league that we run on Thursday nights. Our JOAD team meets on Saturday mornings, and our junior league runs on Thursday nights. And he gives the kids an opportunity to shoot and try to put into practice some of the things that they've learned at JOAD. They also teach level 2 instructor classes. Once or twice a year I do that. And that's just sort of expanded for me. It's pretty much my primary hobby these days, and I just really enjoy working with the young people.
They're so special. They can just look at you and just like they hit where they want to, and their eyes light up. And
the little ones, they'll give you a hug at the end of the day or stuff like that.
I know, I love it.
Yeah, it makes it worthwhile.
And so Charlie and I are going to sit back and talk about archery for about 20 minutes. If you're listening while you're driving your car, I'll take all the notes for you. and I will have the links and resources on my blog, theflyingarcher.com. And you can reach Charlie through his Facebook, which is NERR Archery, and then the +, Joad. Let's start with what kind of bows you like.
Today I shoot compound. I actually shoot a Hoyt Vantage Elite Plus, and I have a Hoyt hunting bow as well, an older one. Mm-hmm. But when I started in archery, seriously started, not counting my high school days, when I went out and bought a bow, I really wasn't familiar or didn't know about compound bows in the early 1970s. And I think they existed then. I just wasn't aware of them. So I bought a Browning Lee Curve and shot that for many years. And that's what I learned on, shooting with fingers. And then in the mid-1980s, everyone seemed like...
For those that might not be... I'm just going to add, for those that might not be familiar with fingers, is that you can use a release, which you just kind of click, and the arrow goes, or you can put your fingers on the string. All right, go ahead.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And then in the 1980s, compounds became very popular, and so I switched over to compound. Still, I was just hunting with it, and continued to shoot with fingers. I wasn't really familiar with the releases then, and I've just stayed with compound ever since. I've thought about going back to recurves for competition purposes, but it just takes a lot of time and energy to make that transition. I think going from shooting with a release, which I shoot with today, going back to shooting with fingers, and I just haven't invested that. And then, given my age these days as well, I really like the let off that I get with a compound bow as opposed to shooting a recurve.
Can you explain how the let-off works?
I'm sorry?
Can you explain how the let-off works? We may have
sure.
shooters or, yeah.
Well, sure. The compound bows, most of them, although there's been some innovations with Matthews here recently, have cams on the end of the limbs, and they look like eggs. And they're designed so that if you're shooting, regardless of what your draw weight is on the bow, if it's 60 pounds, for example, when you initially start pulling the bow back, you get 60 pounds of resistance, but as you reach full draw, there's a let off in the resistance, and it varies from bow to bow and cam to cam. It can be as anywhere from, let's say, 65% to 85% let off. So when you draw the bow back, if you have a cam that allows you to have 85% let off, you're holding very little bit of weight as compared to a recurve. When you draw it back, the draw weight actually increases. And it gets harder to pull as you pull back. So when you get, for competition purposes, and when you get, a few years on you, it's just easier to shoot that bow with a let off like that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm working with a group of compound shooters, and that's a lot of fun. And,
Matthews just came out with a bow they call the no cam, and I haven't shot it. Yeah, a no cam. I haven't shot it, and I really don't understand exactly how it works. I have seen it, but it's some sort of technology that they use that you have wheels on each end of the bow, and there's some other adapter that goes on it that allows you to have a let off, and I'm not sure how that works, but and we'll see how that plays out. It's brand new, a fairly brand new concept, and we'll see how well it's accepted.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to take a look at that. And I've also noticed that a lot of compound shooters tend to have a lot of gadgets on their bow. Are you one of those type of shooters?
Well, I've tried that. Within the last couple of years, there was a gadget, and I don't recall what the name of it was, but it was designed to eliminate torque. This is a story that they tell. It's designed to eliminate torque on your strings and your cables when you draw your bow. And I put it on there for a while. And what I found was that if you have issues with your shooting or with your bow, and you start having problems, and you're trying to troubleshoot what's going on, those gadgets just get in the way. And so I don't use gadgets anymore. I really don't care for them. And so I think when you're trying to figure out if there's something going on with your shooting, whether it's your technique or your bow's out of tune or something, the fewer things that you have to consider like that, the better off you are. And the fewer moving parts you have, the better off you are. So I just shoot basic bow. I put the standard stuff on it. I have stabilizers, and an air rest and sights, and that's about all I put on my bows.
So you're saying it's probably best to sort of get down and dirty and work on your form and see what's going on with that, rather than adjusting and fiddling with stuff.
Right. I learned that lesson over and over again. Whether it's I shoot trap, I play golf, I do archery, and you cannot buy skill. So the gadgets really, in my opinion, don't work, and can complicate the issues sometimes.
It totally can, and a lot of people sort of depend on the gadgets. Do you teach your folks how to shoot without a sight first, or you put the sights right on at the beginning?
It varies with the students. Archery is a very popular thing now, and we have students that want to shoot recurve bare bow, and we have students that want to shoot compound bows with all the sights and everything on it. So we kind of let them do what they want. Here in North Carolina, it's a big area where people hunt with bows, and when they do that, for the most part, they're shooting compound bows. Their dads shoot compound bows, and so we kind of let them make that choice. In the club right now, we've got one child that's shooting bare recurve bow with no sights, nothing on it. Everyone else is shooting the compound. When we start them out, if they come in without equipment, we have Genesis bows that we start them on, and with those bows there are no sights, and they shoot with fingers and that, and to start learning their technique. Usually after they've been doing it for a month or so, the parents take them out and buy them bows, and they for the most part buy them recurves. We have a recommended equipment list. It's good equipment, moderately priced, that we give the parents, and they go out and buy that equipment.
Oh, that's awesome. It's really great when the parents or those that are paying for equipment know what to get, because there's so many crazy stuff out there that one could get that could be the incorrect fit, which could actually hurt somebody. Right,
and if you're not, not everyone is familiar with the equipment has to match, as you well know. The arrows have to match the bow, and the bow has to match the student, and that, and your typical parent, unless they've been involved in archery, don't know that, and so they don't know what to buy, and so that's and it's no fault of theirs. It's just they don't know it, and so that's why we try to put together a recommended list and let them use that.
Now we've had some strange weather lately, and it's just making me think. What is the craziest weather day you've ever shot in?
I've shot in some bad weather, all right, but nothing that's caused really issues. I remember one year shooting in the senior games in Richmond, and it was extremely windy, and it kept blowing the targets over and breaking arrows.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah, and breaking arrows.
Yeah, that's expensive.
It was that bad. Yeah, it was expensive, and it was just a tough shooting day. Another day that I remember was that I went to shot the senior games in Cleveland, Ohio, and it rained. The first day, it was a 2-day shoot. We were shooting feet at 40, 50, 60 yards each day, and the first day it rained so hard, they stopped the shoot several times through the day, and then at the end, we actually did not shoot 40 yards. We managed to shoot 60 yards, 50 yards, and then we didn't finish the 40 yards. It was just a torrential downpours that day. Those are the two things that come to mind. Usually, if it's really bad, if you're shooting a competition, you've got to shoot. You can't pick your weather. You just shoot what's happening at the time. But we're shooting at the club and stuff. If it's bad outdoors, we shoot indoors.
Well, it's really nice having that type of option.
Yeah. We shoot at the club I belong to is actually a gun club, as I mentioned, and when we're shooting indoors, we just take over the pistol range, shut it down, and use it. It works very well. We can shoot 18 meters indoors, and then we have outdoor. We shoot the outdoors also. Actually, we've had Olympic shoots at our club outdoors. We have that much room outside.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah. We have to compete with other activities that are going on, like there are times that we have shotgun matches outdoors, and we have a trap range outdoors and stuff like that. So we have to compete with those kinds of things when we're shooting. But it's pretty good. We have a very nice facility.
But back when you was shooting in your own shooting, what is the craziest thing that happened while you were competing?
Well, I have a couple of things come to mind. One, again, it was the Virginia Senior Games. It was a different year than the windy year when we had all the wind. But Virginia, when they do their Senior Games, they do one event, and people from all over the state come and shoot. And I'm allowed to go shoot also, even though I'm a North Carolina resident. I think they charge me a little bit more, but I can go shoot. And one year, we had like 35 or maybe 40 shooters show up, and we only had 3 targets. The person that was responsible for ordering target faces, we had the pills, the big target to put the target faces on, but the person that was responsible for ordering the target faces ordered the wrong size.
Ooh.
And so we had, 40 people trying to shoot 3 targets, and it was an all-day event. It took us from, we started at like 8 o'clock in the morning and didn't finish till 4:30 that afternoon. Another incident that comes to mind was I was shooting in Lancaster at the Lancaster Archery. They had this really great tournament every year in mid-February. It's a shoot, I think they call it the Lancaster Classic, that I would highly recommend anyone who's interested in archery go there, and you can shoot in it or just go to the seminars. The seminars are, they have first-class speakers come and do the seminars, and whether you're a coach or you're trying to learn for your own benefit or whatever, they're just fantastic. I've learned a lot just sitting through those, and it's all in the price of the tournament. Mm-hmm. But I was shooting that. I think it was the first year I shot that. And they just, how close you are when you're shooting these. The shooting lanes are very close, so you're really on top of one another. And I had a young man shooting behind me who was handicapped, and you just respect someone like that. He had trouble standing up, and he had to use the prop to stand up and stuff like that. And just have a tremendous amount of respect for someone to come out and shoot under those conditions. They don't let their handicap slow them down. They participate in their sport regardless of it. But every time he shot, he was shooting a recurve with big, long stabilizers on it. Every time he shot, he would jab me with his stabilizer.
No way! Oh my gosh!
Yeah. And I didn't say anything. I tried to time my shoot around his, let him shoot, and then I would shoot, because, again, I have a tremendous amount of respect for the young man for being out there and participating with us. But it's hard to maintain your focus, when you're having to think about those kinds of things.
Wow. Well, hey, there you go, listeners. I just took half a page of notes, and I'll have that at flyingarcher.com. And you can follow Charlie on his Facebook page. And what are you thinking about while you're on the archery range? Basically, when you're not getting poked, or when a distraction happens and you're trying to keep yourself focused.
Well, Larry Wise is kind of one of my heroes. He's a world champion and a previous world champion. He's an instructor, a coach, and he writes a number of books on archery. And I was fortunate enough to get my when I did my level 3 certification, I was fortunate enough to do it under Larry.
Oh,
and he talked about what do you think about on the range, and basically what he said and what I try to practice is you can, when you're out there shooting, you can allow yourself to have random thoughts, which is not good, or you can basically script what is it that you're going to think about. And so when you're scripting what you're going to think about, you think about the same thing every time. And what I think about is my shooting sequence.
Mm-hmm.
I think about what's it going to feel like. What does it feel like to bring the bow up? What's it feel like when I draw it back? What does my back feel like when I have tension in my back? What does my anchor point feel like when I've got my proper anchor point, with my arm behind the arrow, with the tension in my back, with my hand on the anchor point on my face. I think about those things, and you have to be very disciplined about it. Each time you think about it on each arrow, as you set yourself up, you stop and you think about that, and don't allow the stray thoughts to enter your mind. That's what I try to do. I read something that you put on Facebook, I think, or somewhere in one of your articles. You said that there have been studies on brain waves of very accomplished archers, and they're very similar to the brain waves that people who are meditating. And I never heard that before, but I think, that's kind of what you need to try to achieve. You need to try to get yourself in a state where all you're focused on is your technique, what it feels like when you do your shot, and block out all the distractions.
And a really good technique, as you were just talking, is have scripted words to say to yourself. So, as you said, it keeps the random thoughts away and keeps you focused. And,
exactly. It's the same with every arrow.
Mm-hmm.
You have the same thought process with every arrow. And it works. It works. And not only works for archery, it works for any sport. I shoot trap.
Mm-hmm.
And I do the same thing with trap. You know what it feels like to do a good shot. If you've been shooting archery for a while, you can tell the minute you let the arrow go whether or not it was a good shot and whether your form was correct and that. So you know what it feels like to execute a good shot. What I try to do and what a person needs to do is capture that feeling before you shoot. What does it feel like? I do it in archery, and I do it when I'm shooting trap. I do it in trap. I do it to the point when you call for a bird, you say pull or say something. I even try to get the same pitch in my voice each time I do it. So I have exactly the same feeling every time I shoot. I do that in archery. I try to imagine what it feels like, what the back tension feels like, the tension in my back feels like, what the recoil feels like when I let the arrow go, when the bow recoils in my hand, because if my posture is different from one time to the next, the recoil will feel different. So I try to imagine that and then reproduce it. And that's all. The thinking.
That's interesting. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's all about it's controlling your thoughts. That's what you should be thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Totally. You should be focusing on your thoughts, and if anyone notices that we have not even talked about aiming or using your eyes. This is, we just talked about the internal process of shooting that can be applied to, as you said, not just archery, but other areas in your life.
Right.
And Wow, Charlie, the time has just flown by, and you have been an incredible guest.
Well, thank you very much.
And I would like to give you the last word. Could you leave us with a pearl of wisdom or inspiration that you would like to leave us with?
Wow, that's a that's a good question. I guess the inspiration for me is if you love the sport, to be good at a sport, you really have to love it, and to develop a love for it comes very quickly. To develop the skills and that to go with it to take a little bit longer, and I would say if you're trying to develop archery skills, don't put the time in, do the practice, educate yourself as well as you can on it. If you can afford coaching, if you have coaches available to you, make use of them. And it's just a lifelong sport that very young people can start with, and it'll serve you through to your my age and older.
It is wonderful that people of all ages can really do the sport.
Right.
So Charlie, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I very much appreciate it.
Hey, you're so welcome.